Hello. I'm going to spotlight myself, which is what one does at one's book launch, I think. We've got a lot of people. 94 people signed up, so it might take a little while to let everyone in and make sure that I'm clicking the right buttons here. Um, Welcome. If you want, in the meantime, it would be so lovely if you wanted to let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. And I will try and keep an eye on the chat and the admitting people with different parts of my brain. Okay, this is so nice. You can all hear me, right? That's very embarrassing. Thought I'd got past the point of is my microphone on? Hi, Hannah in London. Thank you. Welcome. Hello. Oh, hang on. I've missed a couple of chat things. Thank you, Hannah. Very, very nice birthday so far. Hi, Julie in Birmingham. Hello, Sean. Hi, Lisa. Wow. So nice to have you here, Lisa. So we've already got three different countries. We've got Canada, we've got Scotland, and we've got London and Birmingham. I've forgotten once again to let people in. This is why I suggested people get here a bit earlier, since I am my own technical support. Woohoo! Does everyone have a beverage of choice? Hi, Pauline in Cumbria. Hang on. Oh, hi, Lydia in Orkney. Hi, Jess. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining. And thank you for the book that you just ordered. It's always a very nice boost a few minutes before your book launch when someone orders a book. Thank you, Lisa. Hi, Amanda. I can't see all your faces right now. Hang on. Wait, admitting more people, putting it on gallery. Should have done that, but please do. Yeah, feel free to keep your camera off, whatever. I know that Zoom these days is very tiring. Hang on, I'm getting there. So I'm very happy to be the only one with my camera on. Normally I'm doing this and I'm running a writing workshop and I'm making people write, and I really like just watching people write in their living rooms, but I'm not going to be doing that today, which is strange. Sharon, is that you in Australia? Because I'm a bit excited now. Please let us know in the chat as I'm letting people in. For the new people, hang on a second. For those who've just joined, to say that 94 people did sign up for this. So we're going to give them, 25 of you have come in so far. We're going to give them a little bit more time. But please do let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. And you could also share, if you like, whether you have your beverage of choice. Mine is fennel tea. I just thought that seemed quite cleansing. Oh, more in the chat. Is someone having an issue? Have I not allowed permissions for, hang on, for you to all start your videos? That's very weird. I think you can. Can anyone start their videos? I'm pretty sure I put it on. I don't know how to do this. Can anyone help me? How do I start your videos? Yay! Hello, Olivia in Portugal. Hi, Sharon. That's so brilliant that you're joining at 4 a.m. from Sydney. Hi, Jupiter in Wales. Hi, hi, Linda in Rutland. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with the host not allowing video. Let me have a look quickly because I would love to see you all. Hang on a second. Admit all. 1 second. Host tools. Start video. Is that working? Can anyone start their... Oh, something's happening. Suddenly you all like appeared. That was really worth it just to have that, frankly. That is absolutely joyous. Hello. Oh, that's much better. When I said you could all turn your videos off and I'd be fine if I was the only one, but really, if you're eating your tea, it's totally fine. If you're making your tea, it's totally fine as well. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, hang on. Right. Um, Still admitting, which sounds like I should be in some kind of confessional. We will get going in a couple of minutes. Oh, that's so very nice. Pauline was saying, I love the way you're so happy about these Zooms. I am very happy about these Zooms. I know that those of you who use Zoom for work, well, firstly, thank you so much for being here, because I know that using Zoom all the time for work is very exhausting. Just going down the chat. House sitting from somewhere near Chippenham. Hi from Leicester. Donna, hopefully we've got your video working. I think I turned everything off. I found this host permissions thing that I'd never seen before, and I think I turned everything off. Okay, we'll give everyone another couple of minutes. Once again, if you're just joining us, let us know where you're joining from. Moira has a lovely skyscape in the background. Is that your background, or is that real? Are you in a field somewhere? I am going to, just to say as well, I am keeping everyone on mute just in case there are actually all the 94 people who signed up. Hi in Derbyshire, Chris. And don't worry at all, Moira. You know, come and go, and I will send out the recording afterwards. If you miss something and you want to catch up on anything, we'll give everyone another minute or two. Astra joining from Cornwall with granddaughter. I believe granddaughter is 4 and may have some very wise things to share with us about the nature of time and space. So if granddaughter is awake. Hi, Susie in Guildford with dog. Excellent. Oh, it's just really nice. I can see you all. I'm just going to scroll to the next screen. A few more people still joining. Hopefully whoever wants to put their camera on can put it on. Oh, I like that you're chatting amongst yourselves in the chat too. Please do carry on. Hi, Sarah from Mums in Wiltshire. I was going to say as well something about the Q&A box, but there isn't one, and I don't think that's my fault. I don't know what's happened. Okay, hang on. Okay, another minute or two. Welcome to those who've just joined. Sweltering Essex is not a thing you hear every day. Cloudy Glastonbury. Hi, Rachel and Cloudy Glastonbury. I won't be in in Bristol this weekend for the Flash Fiction Fest, unfortunately, B, but I hope you have a really nice time. Oh, a bunny with rainbow ears, Julia. Hi, Terry in Northampton. Hi, Nancy in Oxford. Brilliant. Oh, thank you to everyone who's saying happy birthday. And then all these little cakes fall down the chat. That's very lovely. Okay. It's 3 minutes past. I like that it says on the top of my screen, Tania Hershman is talking. Yes, it's going to say that quite often. Right. Thank you for your birthday wishes. I made myself a birthday pecan pie yesterday, which I had for breakfast, and then for second breakfast, and again. Right. We'll just give this one person who's just in the middle of joining a second. So many falling cakes in the chat. And then we will get going. As you've probably noticed, this is going to be a very, very formal book launch. And from now on, I'm going to put on my serious face. I'm not really sure I have one of those. Sarah is in her childhood bedroom. Yeah, if you want to share how that is in terms of time and space. Helen is still joining. We'll give Helen a second. Helen has hopefully joined. Brilliant. Lovely. Welcome to all 46 of you. This is so nice. That's what I wanted to start off saying. And I know, as I said, that a lot of you use Zoom for work, and maybe it's kind of like a tiring thing, and I can understand that. But actually, in many ways, to me, it's like this magical portal through space-time, because look, we've got all these people here, and we're all together in the Zoom room from as far away as Sydney, Australia. And that to me is a wonderful thing. Just letting a few more people in. And also, it is also a magical portal across time, because I want to say hello to all those who will be watching on the recording. And those of you who've been in my workshops are probably a bit fed up with me saying that, but I just get such a thrill because it really does feel like a bit of time travel. Right. Okay. So I think I'm going to, all your lovely faces, I'm going to put it on speaker mode so I'm a bit more focused now. So it is so, so lovely that you are all here to celebrate with me, and I really, really appreciate it. And I have never done anything quite like this before, which is not a disclaimer, even though I am my own technical support, so bear with me. It's going to be me pretty much, my voice for about the next hour or so. So that is what I've not done before. I run a lot of writing workshops on Zoom, and a number of you have been there, and which is wonderful, and I love it. But a lot of the writing workshop is me setting people writing exercises and then sitting back and waiting and watching people write in their living rooms. But here, this is me and my voice. And I first wanted to say that I don't take it lightly that I have this space, this platform, to speak and to talk about the things that are important to me. And I will, yes, be talking about my new book. And I don't take that for granted. And I also know what a privilege it is to be published, to have anything published. So I don't take that lightly either. And I'm very delighted to be here. I had a kind of a revelation a few days ago, which is going to maybe sound kind of obvious, but for those of you who are on my my highly irregular newsletter, you'll sort of know that one of my main mottos is write what you want in the way you want to write it. And I've been teaching on Zoom and in person for about 11 or 12 years, but most of the time when I taught on Zoom, I've been teaching for other organizations. And it was only this January, 8 months ago, that I started teaching my very own Zoom workshops under my sort of unbox your words, give yourself permission to play umbrella. And so what I realized through that was that I could teach what I want in the way I wanted to. And that has been incredibly empowering and very exciting. And I've been having a lot of fun in these monthly workshops, which basically I decide the month before what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. And then I realized 2 days ago that this book launch, the fact that I'm hosting it myself and it's just me and I'm not in conversation with anyone, means that I can have the book launch I want and do it in the way that I want, which is very thrilling. It took a lot of the pressure off because I realized that I could just wing it and go off on tangents, which actually is kind of a good introduction to the book as well. So I'm very delighted to be doing that and to be talking with all of you. And although that those of you who know me will know that I'm not really a party person, and in some ways this is my ideal party because you're all here but you're all on mute and you can only correspond with me in writing. But please do use the chat box, and it's got so that I teach so many Zoom workshops that it feels I can hear you in the chat box, so I would love that. I have a whole list that I might diverge from, but it's more like bullet points, and who knows what might happen in the next hour or so. So I realized as well that this isn't just launching the new book, and I'm just going to wave it because it's just so beautiful, and we'll come to that in a minute. And yes, I have sort of matched my color scheme to the color scheme of the book. The cover is so beautiful. So it's not just for me the launch of this book, but it's a really good chance to actually check in with myself in front of all of you of where I am in my writing journey, and take a little time to look back and try and figure out how I got here, which there was never a plan, never, ever. And some people do ask me that sometimes when I talk about writing of, did you plan this? I mean, I think anyone who says that they did, well, I'm kind of amazed. But there wasn't a plan. And to have this, my 10th book, is so far beyond all my wildest dreams that I thought it'd be a really interesting thing. It's been interesting for me already to think about looking back. So the last few years, And there are a lot of you here, which is so wonderful, from all different areas of my life. And there are quite a few of you who know me through my writing and my writing workshops. Some of you are very old friends who I haven't seen in person for a very, very long time. Some of you are new friends who don't really know that much about my writing. And so I thought I'd do a little bit of an overview, which is part of the looking back. So for the past couple of years, I've been calling myself a queer writer of odd things. And I really, really liked that phrase when I came up with it. It seems to really fit. And for the first few years, the odd things I wrote were things called short stories and flash fictions. And then the odd things expanded into things that were called poems. And so the first few of these 10 books, I'm sorry, it just makes me giggle every time I say that. The first few of these books were collections of those mostly quite odd things. So 3 short story and flash fiction collections, and 2 poetry chapbooks and 2 poetry collections. And I want to say, at this point as well, that as a writer of odd things, I am so immensely grateful to small independent presses, because they really are the lifeblood of those of us, of publishing the things that those of us who write odd things write. And there's no way I'd get published without these amazing small independent publishers, who are very often run by one person doing it for love. There's no profit in it. So I'm so grateful to them, and I'm so especially grateful to Guillemot Press, and we will come on to that in a moment. So the first 7 books were collections of things that I'd written with no thought of putting them together. And then I wrote my very first hybrid book. And this was something I wrote during my PhD in creative writing. I want to show you this. This is just an excuse, because this was my first book as well, published by the wonderful Guillemot Press in a limited edition with a gold cover. I know, come on. And so the PhD in creative writing, which was I started it 12 years ago, was really, as someone who was writing very, very short things, I wanted a kind of a framework. I wanted someone to set me deadlines. And I had 3 supervisors, in fact. We won't go off on too much of a tangent there, but one of my supervisors was a particle physicist. And I decided that I was going to write what I came to call a hybrid book. And the whole use of this word hybrid and hybrid writing, it's something I stumbled upon, because when I started writing things that people were calling poems, after having been writing short stories for many years, I was thinking to myself, well, to me, they're just all different shapes of words. Why is someone putting all of this under poetry and all of this under short stories and fiction? And I thought, I'm not that interested in making separations and being inside one genre or under one label. So I decided that this book would be just a mix of everything and whatever it needed. And I'd never worked on a book length work before. And what I've learned over the years as well is not to ever tell anybody what I think my own work is about. But I was really, really playing. I was really giving myself permission to play. And it's got all sorts of word shapes. And it also has, I don't know if you can see this. This is the wonderful Luke Thompson at Guillemot, where it's got like tracing paper in there. I mean, it's because I was doing all sorts of playing with words, and he found ways to make that into a physical entity. And so this, I wanted to show you as well. These are my 3 hybrid books. So this one was the first one that was published. This was the second one, Go On, which came out 3 years ago. And I call it a fictional memoir in collage. Luke is saying in the chat that the tracing paper was one of the most difficult processes of any publication we've done. I really, really, really appreciated it. It was glorious. And yeah, the second one is a book that somebody could call a novel, and I called it a fictional memoir in collage. And this is my third book, my third hybrid book. It's Time, a chronomemoir. And one thing you can see, which is something that only hit me as I was doing this retrospective through my writing journey, is the change in size between the first, second, and third hybrid books. And it's not because I have become invested in the thing that the publishing industry is so focused on quantity, and there are supposed to be minimum page numbers and your books should be bigger and bigger. It's not that at all. And for me, what I think everything is the length it needs to be. But I think what's happened, as I've noticed this in the past week or two, is what I was doing over the years was I was giving myself permission not to stop, and permission to keep on saying the things I wanted and needed to say. And that, hence, there are more pages in this last book, and who knows what might happen from now on. But permission is a word that's become so important to me. And once again, if you're on my highly regular newsletter list, and I would just like to say that it comes out monthly, so the highly irregularity, I've realized, is not the frequency. But I was thinking about this today. It's possibly because the content of my newsletter is sort of encouraging everyone to be highly irregular and not to get bogged down in so-called rules and shoulds, and you can't do this and you can't do that. Let's all be slightly or highly irregular. So if you know, I'm banging on about permission a lot in my newsletter, such that I've even now got a permission corner in which I talk about my thoughts on permission and sometimes other people's thoughts on permission. And what I understand very much over the years in my own writing and whenever I'm working with anybody else is how often we stand in our own way. And it's so easy to do. And I'm noticing it still all the time, and it's the inner critic, and it comes up in all sorts of new ways, and it's very inventive, the inner critic, and it stops you doing all sorts of things until you notice and you're like, wait a minute, why am I telling myself I can't do that? So I think I'm getting better, not at the inner critic, the inner voice hasn't stopped trying to stop me, but I'm getting a bit better at going, wait a minute, okay, that's good, you can move on now, I'm going to do it anyway. I was thinking as well that what I wanted to say before, and I am going to read you some parts from the book, I'm going to get onto that, is that writing for me really isn't work. Writing it's what I do, it's how I process the world, it's how I engage with the world, it's how I try and figure things out, how I ask questions. It's my go-to, basically, which might explain why we're up to book 10. And what I'm always interested in, and I've always done in my writing, is I write my way in. Always have. I don't really know what's going to happen at the outset. And I'm always writing for me. So I'm always writing to entertain myself. And the minute I stop entertaining myself in my writing, I will stop, which is, I think, a very useful thing for a writer, is to make sure you're keeping yourself interested. And another thing I want to talk about briefly before I talk about this book is I realized that I'm interested in not in just playfulness and permission and play, but messiness. And by that, I mean a lot of what I read, and I'm very honored to be asked a lot to judge short story competitions and flash fiction competitions. And I see a lot of pieces across all forms and sizes that seem very neat and kind of tidy and tightly, maybe they've been tidied up. But for me, I'm always saying that if I'm judging a competition, I would much rather see a piece that takes risks and is slightly messy in that way than something that's been sort of edited such that it's like shiny and it's that sort of tightly bound, if you know a bit what I mean. So not messy in the sense that there's lots of typos, which Luke and I spent a lot of time rereading this and looking at getting down to the level of commas. But it's that different kind of permission to be messy that I really like. And one thing I realized as well, especially with Go On and It's Time, I just wanted to say as well, and I have to talk about this. So the three hybrid books, the title of the first one is And What If We Were All Allowed to Disappear? The second one is Go On. And the third one is It's Time. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I trying to encourage you all to do with these 3 books? Anyway, I'll leave that up to you. So, so what it is for me is, especially these last 2 books, Go On and It's Time. What I'm doing basically is what they said in maths class many years ago. I'm showing my working. And which means that these books pretty much were published exactly, almost exactly as they came out of me, as they were written. They're in the same order that they were written in. I didn't do that much to them afterwards because in many ways they're about the journey and they're not about where I was getting to. And for me, that's the kind of book I wanted to write, and that's the kind of book I'm interested in reading. And so I'd allowed myself all along to just put in what I wanted to put in and try not to be too self-conscious. And I never think about a reader as I'm going on. And what's interesting, I realized about Go On, is that it has different threads running through it. And one of the threads is the author talking to an entity called the narrator. And it's the narrator's job to keep encouraging the author to write. So the narrator is the one that's saying, go on. And that was me and my way of encouraging myself to write this book. So I was showing my working on so many different levels. I was even showing how I was encouraging myself through this thread with the author and the narrator. And one of the best compliments I got for this book, Go On, was that somebody lovely, who I think is here, said it's a book that feels very alive. And I absolutely love that. I'm very moved by that because I think that's something to do with the messiness, because life is messy. And me just putting it all in the way I wanted to put it all in, and then not going back and somehow neatening it up and maybe moving things around. I'm hoping that maybe that was part of the aliveness. And what is interesting as well here is in this book, It's Time, I didn't need a narrator saying, go on, go on. I'd somehow got to a place where I was giving myself permission to do it. Okay, so we can talk about this lovely new book. And could I just say thank you, Luke. Luke Thompson is Guillemot Press, and he has not just a passion for odd books. I don't think he'll mind me saying he has quite the passion for paper, and would tell me things about paper stock as if I knew what that meant. But it's such a thrill that when I first got the first copy, and it was only last week, and I smelled it, and there is nothing better than the smell of amazing paper, and it just is such a beautiful physical object. So thank you so much, Luke, for giving this odd thing such a wonderful home. So why a book on time? Need to keep having the tea. I'm remembering now. I get very interested. I'm very interested in stuff. I'm very curious. And the idea for this book came to me, and I looked it up, and I thought it wasn't this long ago. It was in 2016. And I was driving back from holiday in Cornwall with a good friend, and I was doing the driving, and it was going to be like a very long drive. And at some point, she said to me, she said, how much longer have we got left? And I said something like 3.5 hours. And then I continued driving. I thought to myself, how odd. She wanted to know how much longer there was. And I didn't give her distance, I gave her time. And it was just that my head sort of started going, which is not what you want when you're driving on the motorway. And we had to then stop actually at a petrol station. I said, we have to stop because I have to start writing down some notes. And she, being a very good friend, understood what my brain does. And I started writing down notes. This is in 2016. And I also said to her that she couldn't fall asleep at all during the journey, because then I would start getting more ideas. And I didn't. I was halfway through. I was in the middle of the PhD in creative writing at that point in 2016. And I didn't let myself start this book. But I kept notes. I kept all sorts of notes, and all my notes were ideas for different ways to come at the topic of time. And I used this to-do app called Trello, and I was going to show you all the lists and everything, but I thought it was probably a bit too small to share on the screen. But I made so many lists of things I wanted to do. I didn't get through them all. I haven't got through them all. I just kept going off in so many different directions. And so I didn't let myself start writing it, as you will see in a minute, until December 2018. So this was about 2.5 years later, because I finished the PhD, but then by accident, I started writing another book, which turned into Go On. And I started writing that beginning of 2018. And then I got immersed in that. So I couldn't, anyhow, I started in, December 2018. And I, as I said, with this book, I didn't need anyone to tell me to go on. But, hang on, admitting somebody else. I must say that getting an Arts Council Developing Your Creative Practice grant was a very nice boost, but also it was £10,000, and I got totally freaked out by it. Because firstly, I thought, isn't it nice? Someone wants me to write this insane book. And I had described it as a book that was a hybrid book exploring what it's like to be a creature living inside time and having time inside me, and coming at it from all sorts of directions, from science and art and everything. And I thought, Arts Council, are you really sure you want me to write this? And someone at the Arts Council did. But I was so freaked out at getting £10,000, which is more than I will ever earn from all my books and everything combined, that in some it almost stopped me writing it. And so I wrote that in the book because I was showing my working. So this book is in the order that I wrote it. And I call it a chronomemoir because I like making up words for a start, because it's in the order that I wrote it. It's also a sort of snapshot of me over time, investigating time. And I also call it a chrontemplation, which I think is another word I made up, because it is me thinking about time over time. I know I do my own head in. And okay, I'm going to read you some of it. So I'm going to share the screen at this point. Hang on a sec. And I'm not commenting, but I'm very happy to see that a number of you in the chat also sniff books. I mean, it's very important. Nicola loves contemplation. Please do take these words and run with them. Okay, this is a safe space to confess that you sniff books. Let's see. Okay, so I hope you can all see that. Oh, hang on a second. So this is the beginning of the book. Well, beginning one. So I just want to say, before I start reading, I wanted to show it to you as well as reading it to you, partly because I like the idea that you might want to see the text, but also because the visual aspect has become increasingly important to me as over the years. It's hanging out with those poets, and suddenly I'm like, I can go all over the page. So I wanted to show you what it looks like as well. So I'll read you a couple of pages, and we'll see how my voice holds out. Beginning 1, December 31st, 2018. I know, I can't start yet. It's supposed to be tomorrow, but it's so hard not to. I've been waiting ages to write this, years. I've been keeping myself busy until the time was right, and the time will be right tomorrow. Oh, the newness of it, the beginning afresh of it, January 1st. So stop. Don't start now. All right, one more day. Who knows, but that the beginning of it early, the preempting of it, might in fact make it hush now. January. Hypothetically, time might be smooth or rough, prickly or silky, hard or soft. But in this world, the texture of time happens to be sticky. Portions of towns become stuck in some moment in history and do not get out. So too, some people become stuck at some point in their lives and do not get free. From Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman. Beginning 2, January 1st, 2019, 9:11 a.m. Nothing happens without it. I thought of that line yesterday. Do you see what I mean? I wondered, as I walked, whether I could write a book about without using the word itself, the way George Perec wrote a novel without the letter E. But you may have noticed that I've already used the word anyway. In my pre-beginning, in my end of all the waiting now, in my impatience. Also, leaving out the word time in a book on the subject is not the sort of challenge I want to set myself. I have other things in mind. Let's start again. On this day of beginnings, January 1st, 2019. How am I feeling? Mostly just a slight relief. I can put 2018 behind me and look forward. Why does a change in a number give me a sensation at all? Is today really so different, or is it that I make it so? In the corner of my computer screen, Tuesday, 1 January. The Tuesday doesn't have so much of an impact. Tuesdays come regularly. We don't have a celebration as we move from Monday into it. Last night there were fireworks, although, to be honest, there are a lot of fireworks on days that seem to have nothing worth the fanfare. Nothing happens without it. This sentence wouldn't happen without time. If everything existed in an instant, there would be no progress. I couldn't write one word after another, and you couldn't read it. Perhaps. Now I remember the film Arrival, which I watched twice and loved. In it, the aliens have a language that doesn't seem to rely on the sequence of one word after another. It's an image that appears whole. The film is about messing with time, language, time, and communication. What is this book? Or rather, what will this book? I have no idea. Well, I have a lot of ideas, but no plan for how they might all come together. In the years I've been thinking about writing this, I've kept lists of time-related articles I'm going to read, people I want to meet, time experiments I want to run on myself. Now I'm here and will begin. There are many, many books on time, often taking a similar tack, from physics to the invention of clocks and railway timetables, presenting facts, presenting history and science. What I plan to do here is make no assumptions and start from first principles, writing my way into time, getting inside it to probe the being of a timely human. We are ticking creatures, and when our own ticking stops, we're done. Although modern medicine has found a way around that if it has its machines there in time. In time. Time is everything. Waiting, patience, duration, longing, memory, hope. Time is change, evolution, decay. Time is life and death. Time is what makes everything relative. I am happy and then I become happier. Time is outside me, keeping me in check and giving me something to rebel against. And my organs and tissues also take time, each in their own way. I write fiction and poetry, and it is here too, in flashbacks and time skips as my stories unfold, and in the space between one line of poetry and the next. Film wouldn't happen without time, the illusion of parts becoming a flow. Twitter, it's what's happening now. Music and rhythm, I could go on and on. I will. Is anything out of time, outside it? I have so many questions. I want to get inside time's head, explore every crevice, feel my way. I will walk by the river, which is different every time I go down. I will read some of what I've been collecting, meet some of the people on my list, scientists, philosophers, watchmakers, artists, and I will bring it all here. And I will follow tangents, which I know with as much certainty as it's possible to have after 48.5 years of ticking will be offered to me. I will be surprised. This book will be very loosely structured as a diary because it will be the story of me over time. I won't be the same by the end of this book. I'm not the same by the end of this sentence. This is an enormous topic, one of the biggest in the universe. It's time. Google searches, January 1st, 2019. Time is of the essence. Money, a flat circle, running out, on my side. Time was of the essence. Ripe, when? Nora Roberts, Wishbone Ash, not declared in this scope. Time will be frozen for us. The healer lyrics, the healer, no more, change, of the essence. Beginning 3. We are ticking creatures. I am filled with clocks. Measuring, I am measured. Set my hands to 10 and 2. I season and decay. Grow me riper. I will learn what second, decade, eon may be. Plant me. I am seed. Time and I go for a walk. I don't know where all this old father stuff came from, Time says. You look younger than me, I say. Thanks, says Time, stopping to skim a stone. Also, I'm not into parenting. Why would you be, I say? Although, I'm sure you'd be great if you... Too selfish, says Time, walking beside me, skipping a little. Time is lighter than I'd expected and with a wicked sense of humour, although flighty. Sometimes for a minute I feel like I'm on my own. Sorry, just had to go fix... Oh, no, not a problem. I really appreciate you taking the time. Time nudges me in the ribs. Oops, I say, sorry, it's hard not to. I'm a celebrity, says Time. I have a magazine and everything. Time strikes a pose. I applaud and Time seems pleased. I want to ask a question, something serious, but the moment never seems... Oh, there, I'm doing it again. Do you feel, I say. Am I passing for me, you mean, says Time, becoming a wise owl for a split second, then a clock with no hands. That's a tricky one. I'm just being myself. It's hard to know if I'm in or out. Are you changing? Time stops. Nothing happens at all. We carry on walking. I like this place, Time says, not answering my question. January 3rd, 8:16 a.m. When you find yourself unexpectedly driving down the motorway in the dark at 6 a.m., it is as if you have landed on another planet, the planet of morning people. You do not usually see this time of day. As you drive, you listen to BBC Wales. You had a slight panic before you left the place you decided, after a sleepless night, not to stay in for the full 2 days. You worried that your body would not do what you needed it to do. Your body clock would be too confused to make the 2-hour journey home. But also, you knew, given strong coffee, 2 preemptive ibuprofen and half a dairy milk fruit and nut, that your body, which you have been operating or been operated by for almost 50 years, would, if pushed, do this for you. At first, there are few cars on the semi-lit roads. You learn from the cheerful Welsh radio hosts that China claims to have landed a probe for the first time on the dark side of the moon. You listen to the news that British scientists have developed a breath test for cancer. All this and not yet 7 a.m. You marvel at what is possible. You drink more coffee. As you merge onto the motorway, the road is filled now with morning people, you suppose, or with inhabitants of your planet who have no choice in the matter, who have become people of the alarm clock, internal rhythms adjusting to the shift. You stop for petrol. This seems like a dream, these numbers showing 7:20 a.m. The girl who accepts your payment in the gas station. How does she do this, you wonder? You hold tight onto as much reality as possible as you merge back into traffic, eating the remainder of the fruit and nut. The January sun is only rising now. Sunrise, you think. You do not see sunrise on a usual day. A thin, gorgeous moon. You have to force yourself not to look, and you begin to write this in your head. Driving while being a writer is dangerous. You turn the music up. You arrived home. The cat is perhaps confused, perhaps pleased. It is 8:16 a.m. As you write this, your face lit by the blue of your sad lamp, which you begin to use every year now when the clocks go back, to prevent the winter rage you realized was overtaking you. You wonder what to do now. The world is waking up. You, who only slept for a few hours at most, are happy to be of an age or of a disposition to know for certain you will never now stay in a situation that isn't comfortable, no matter that you have paid for 2 nights, no matter it was a holiday. You are filled with coffee, dairy milk, and the preemptive ibuprofen. You amaze yourself by thinking about doing yoga now at 8:18 a.m. You laugh. This is unheard of. You do yoga. On this planet, you do not recognize yourself. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I think that was the page I wanted to get to. I hope that's given you a little taste. I'm just going to have some more tea. Little taste of why this is one of my odd things. I wanted to say as well, and I want to show you a little bit, a few other things in a minute. I'm just stopping the share and I'll go back into it. That please do ask questions if you have questions. Thank you, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, I was going to say put your questions in the Q&A box, and then it turns out we don't have a Q&A box. So please do, if you can think of any questions, put them in the chat. I love questions, as you can tell from, well, all of it. I'm going to show you, hang on a second. I just want to show you a bit more of what the book looks like. So we're just going to do a quick, hang on, a quick flip through. So there's text, there's more text, there's stuff. Then I wanted to show you, this is a picture of a millefeuille cake. And I originally, when I wrote this, so there was a little bit of tweaking here. I had a stock image of a millefeuille cake, and the millefeuille is the one with like lots and lots of layers of pastry with cream in between. And I then tried to find a free photo that I liked of a millefeuille cake that we could use. And I couldn't find one. And so when I was at this gorgeous writing retreat in January in Portugal, I very selflessly made us go to some cake shops, found that there's a Portuguese equivalent of a millefeuille cake called a milfolhas. And one of my fellow artists on the retreat took the photo for me, and then I ate the cake. Yeah, I mean, the length, I'm dedicated. I wanted to show you, yeah, so there are all sorts of sections going on here, and we'll come to one of those in a minute. Let me show you some other things. So more text, things that look a bit like poems. Where was the bit where I wanted to, some quotes at the beginning. It's sort of organized in months, a little bit of some of this. I'm doing it very fast as a teaser. Where did I want to show you? We'll just skip through. There's an illustration from an amazing science paper that I found called The Mammalian Circadian Timing System and the I can't say that, suprachiasmatic nucleus as its pacemaker. And I just thought the picture was beautiful. And then I wanted to show you some more pictures, other things. So you're getting a bit of and every now and then I do these Google searches. And you know the way that if you start typing into Google, it gives you all the top 10 most popular ends of the sentence that you're searching for. So I just decided to do that on a regular basis and do different time related things each time. And so I wanted to show you this. Oh, got a lovely poem. And then I came across a couple of different clocks, which I loved. So we've got some pictures of clocks. One is the coniferous clock. Takes about a year for the leaves to turn from green to brown. And another one is the knitting clock, where the clock, it says, demonstrates the passage of time by mechanically knitting a scarf throughout the year. I mean, come on, that's very thrilling. And then I was going to read you. Let me see if I can do this. Excuse me for very, very fast scrolling. I couldn't figure out another way to do this. I want to read you one of these, which is one of the casual conversations about time that I have. Where's it gone? Casual conversations about time, number 5. At the end of a work meeting at the university, the first meeting-like meeting I had been to for years, with 5 other people, only one of whom I knew, one of the men turned to the man next to him and said, "I think your watch is fast." "Oh, yes," said the man with the watch. "I set it like that." "7 minutes," said the first man. "Yes," said the second, "and I tell myself it's only 5 minutes fast." I was delighted by this. "So you live in 3 time zones," I said to the man with the fast watch. "The actual time, the time your watch says, and the time you tell yourself your watch says." The man with the fast watch nodded. "And the clocks are going back," I said. I wondered for the rest of the day how the man with the fast watch would reset his watch to the new daylight savings time, but 7 minutes fast, and tell himself it was only 5. It seemed so fascinating, so complicated, so telling about humans and what our minds can do, want to do, or perhaps just the mind of this one human trying to take control, if not of the world itself, then his little time-based corner of it. I think I will stop reading there for a few moments and see if, thank you all, lovely people in the chat box, which I've made very large. Tis dangerous driving as a writer. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Cole, for my dedication. I'm presuming you're talking to the cake eating part. Did we, Jane? We had millefeuille in a French cafe 20 years ago. Oh, I wish I'd had a conversation about time with you. Lovely. There's some knitting going on. Yes. Oh, okay. So, Susie, I answered your question about Google searches. Oh, Donna, I've got The Poetics of Space by Gaston Bachelard on the shelf behind me, obviously, because I did a PhD. I don't know if I read a lot of it, actually, but thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. I can't remember, Pauline, who the man with the watch was. I remember that meeting very well, but he didn't seem, as far as I remember, he didn't seem to think it was at all bizarre what he was doing with his fast and different time zones. Just weird. Is there physics in the book? Moira, you know me. Of course, there's physics in the book, but it's very, let's just say it's very, I hope it's very accessible. In fact, the section after the first bit I just read you, it's more about my take on it. Anyway, yeah, there's some physics. Um, this is so interesting. I mean, let me just say that when you're writing a book about time, you can go on writing a book about time forever. And I had to decide to stop at some point. I'm learning so much about all of you. Jupiter's bathroom is in a different time zone. Linda, it's as if I planted you. Linda says, must buy the book. Oh, everyone does. I had a great conversation with some of you here when we were on a writing retreat a couple of years ago about late people versus early people. And we were really trying to grapple with this idea of what makes I'm a very early person, such that I once turned up at a train station 40 minutes before my train, which I thought was ridiculous. But we got a real insight into what goes on in the mind of a person who is always later than the time they intend to be. And unfortunately, that conversation was so interesting that I forgot to take any notes, and it's not in the book. I think the world is divided into people who are always early and people who aren't. Would anyone like to ask me any questions about anything? Also, I just wanted to show you the first 2 quotes are from this beautiful book, which has been so important to me over the years, Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman. And I was so thrilled that Alan Lightman gave me permission to use those quotes and was just lovely. I first read this about 30 years ago and it inspired my writing. Unbelievable. It's good, isn't it, Miranda? It's just at a certain point I was buying copies for everyone. I will, on that note, I will put links in the chat to where you might get a hold of my book if you'd like to. Jess has a question. What's your relationship to clocks? That is so interesting. Oh, you're all so interesting. Oh, Miranda, I bought your copy for you. That's very nice to know. I'm spreading the word. What's my relationship to clocks? It's very, very interesting because I love clocks. Because I have my first degree was maths and physics. I love numbers and I love measuring things. And that comes across in the book as well. It's like I'm constantly measuring things and I find I'm doing it all the time. And so I'm always checking clocks. And in the last, probably because I was rereading my book so much in the last 6 months or a year, I had to gather so many permissions because I've quoted so many people and used pictures of other people's artwork and clocks and things that I was reading and rereading it. And in the last 2 weeks, I've stopped wearing a watch. And I've never done that before in my life. And it is weird because the watch I'd been wearing for years, its battery died. And it was so lovely. It's really beautiful and it's got a sort of face with birds on it. So I not only bought one watch on Etsy to replace it, I bought 2 watches on Etsy because they were both had a bird design and I couldn't decide. So now I've stopped wearing 2 watches. and in the last 2 weeks, and sometimes I carry my watch in my pocket, but I've only recently started thinking, actually, because of the life I lead, I don't often need to know what the time is all the time. And I've also tried in the last couple of weeks, I've decided I've always been very fixated by the difference between weekdays and weekend. And I was also realizing that because of the way my life is organized, I don't have to make that distinction. And I was also finding, as a person or a woman of a certain age, I was exhausted by the time the weekend came, and I would use my weekend for sort of collapsing and recovering. And then I thought to myself, is there a way, if I blur the distinction between weekdays and weekends, that I can do some more recovery during the week and not just collapse at the weekends? I don't know if this speaks to anyone. So right now, in the last few weeks, it has really changed my relationship to time and to clocks. Although there's no getting away from them. Even when I go out without my watch on, I hear church bells and think, I know it's 1:15, or I see a clock somewhere. So what's your relationship to clocks, Jess? Does anyone yeah, Linda, I'm like you. I have to be jumpy if I'm not early enough. Helen, God, I feel I'm learning so much about all of you. Helen says, I always set my alarm not in multiples of 5. That is just brilliant. 7:04, 9:17, 8:13. We can't bear to set it on a multiple of 5. That is absolutely fascinating. I will be remembering that. People seem to love that, Helen. I think that's the mark of an artist. Cole is saying, you said you kept your stories, poems, searches roughly in the order they came out. In retrospect, do you see patterns in where your subconscious went? Actually, I do that in the book. Because at a certain point, and I don't know, at a certain point in the time book, I decide I'm going to read the whole book back and then write about my experience of reading the book back and what I think now of what I was thinking then. I mean, I love messing with my head. I've always had an idea. I've always had thoughts of present me doing things for future me, and present me thanking past me. Like, for example, I will when I park, I will reverse into a parking space so future me can just drive straight out, or I will buy chocolate for future me. And so I've always had this idea of thinking about past me and future me. And I think that reading back was me trying to figure out what past me was trying to figure out and what present me thought of it. So there's a lot of layers going on. I wasn't analyzing my subconscious too much, because I know that's quite a dangerous activity, and perhaps that's someone else's job that I could pay for that. But I suspect, which is a joyous thing, that anyone who reads the book might tell me if they see things where my subconscious was going. I feel like anything more than that might be a spoiler, but let me just see. I can just say that I got quite fixated on the idea of what thinking about the future does for us. I don't come really to any conclusions, but I do come to some better questions. And I think that's what's always important to me. Anna says, how did you get the feel of how much conceptually to explore in the book when time is such an enormous place to be? Well, as I said, I had this list that I was keeping for 2.5 years of ideas and things I wanted to explore and articles I wanted to read. And in the end, when it came to it, and what I do mostly with my writing is I went on instinct. I just went on instinct. Partly that, and also partly circumstance, because I started writing the book in December 2018, and I got the Arts Council grant. And the Arts Council grant, I'd said I was going to go off and interview lots of people, like a philosopher of time and a watchmaker and a chronobiologist, which is a real word. And then in mid-January, a few weeks after I started writing the book, I came down with flu. And this is January 2019. This is the year before COVID. And it was such a severe flu that it took me about 7 or 8 months to get my energy back. And so I decided that this was just really fascinating. I felt very lucky that I wasn't feeling ill and I wasn't in pain. I was just very slow, very slow. And I thought, this is very interesting. I'm just going to put this in the book, and I'm just going to observe myself and my slowness. And so, because I couldn't really go and interview all the people at that point that I'd wanted to, I then had to do a lot of it online instead. So that shifted. But I looked at whatever I could. But basically, it was just me following tangents. There was no plan. There's never a plan. I was writing my way in. And every time something mentioned something else and somebody mentioned another article, I went off that way and just saw what happened. Um, I want hang on. Jasmine is saying, is time more interesting than space to you? You guys are asking such great questions. If time is more interesting than space to you, and if so, why? I know you're a fellow. I'd never call myself a physicist. I more call myself a, I didn't get further than the undergrad degree. But I'm going to answer that as a potential physicist and say they are one and the same, and we're just going with space time. I also don't want to scare, was it Moira who was asking if there's a lot of physics in the book? But I'm a huge fan of Einstein, and I've written several short stories about or inspired by Einstein. And I do think, and this is what's really comes into the book quite soon, is that studying quantum physics and special relativity as an undergrad at the age of 19 does your head in a very interesting way that I can now see looking back influenced me for the 30 years that came after. Because when special relativity is basically saying that, this is where, can I explain it? I'm hoping I explained it better in writing. But it's if you have a car and you have a garage, and the garage is too short for your car, which is so the car won't fit in. This is what's called a thought experiment. If you drive your car near to the speed of light, it will shrink such that it will fit in the garage. This has been experimentally proven, not with cars and garages. That's kind of just that's like Schrodinger's cat. No cats are actually put in boxes. But it's just, I mean, it was mind blowing. And it got to a point where our quite dry lecturer in special relativity looked out the lecture hall of 400 students, and he had to stop and crack jokes in the middle of the relativity lectures because all our minds were just exploding. And when you have that, I think as a 19-year-old, I think that changed it made me believe in magic. And it really does explain a lot. We have my cat he's complaining a bit now because I don't normally talk this much. Susie asked a little question. How did you know when to stop the book? That is a very interesting question. So I did stop writing it before the pandemic. And then, as I'm sure happened with most of us, our minds were entirely taken over by what we were going through. And I couldn't really write for the first year or two. And when I went, it's always so useful, even when it's a forced stop, to go back and look at something you've written and haven't looked at for a year or two. And I realized that I hadn't finished. I just stopped. And that's because the world stopped. So I realized I needed to carry on a bit. And although I didn't really fancy adding to the amount of writing that was being done about the pandemic, it seemed like I needed to address pandemic time. And so that was actually what helped me get towards the end. And I'm not going to, no spoilers, but it then seemed like a natural end point. And it also had to do again with going back again and rereading again what I'd already written to try and extract and see where I might have been and where I was going. And things started to come together. But I still run into fascinating stuff that I would have liked to put in the book. But no, it's 258 pages. She's a big one, with gorgeous paper. So I'm glad I stopped when I stopped, but I'm endlessly fascinated. Lots of people confessing odd seconds on the microwave. It's fantastic. Interesting, Sarah says ADHD trait. If I'm on time, it feels early, and early feels rude. Wow, I had never thought of that. I'm very rude all the time. I know I often sit in the car waiting because I feel like I can't go where I'm going too early. Past Sarah and future Sarah. Sometimes current Sarah thinks thanks, past Sarah, for a good decisions. I do that all the time as well. Oh, interesting. Nick says, when I was training as a psychotherapist many years ago, they used to say, tongue in cheek, that an early client was anxious and a late client was angry. What was a punctual client, or one who waited in their car? Oh, thank you, Pippa. Thank you, Nancy. Oh, does Nancy says, does time move differently in different places? If you have read Einstein's dreams, he is it basically, I know I shouldn't be promoting all other people's books, but if there's going to be one, it's going to be this one. He's basically imagining what Einstein might have been dreaming about when he was coming up with his theory of special relativity. And like there are all sorts of completely different ideas of how time might move. And he's got a little section in this of people who live on the top of a hill and people who live in the valley, and the times are different. Oh, and you're asking me, where is the slowest time you've ever experienced? Whoa, that's such an interesting question. I may have to get back to you on that. I think actually, I think probably when I started learning mindfulness about 25 years ago, I started being better at feeling that the same amount of time had passed as had actually passed. So not going, oh my God, where did that hour go? And it actually had felt like that hour. I think going on holiday a few times with this good friend was the slowest time that I've ever experienced, no matter where we were, because we were having such a good time. So I like that. Um, I did, Moira, cover a bit of lockdown time. I can't actually remember, but not a lot of it. It's just sort of towards the end, I realized I just couldn't pretend it hadn't happened at all. I don't think Terry asked, did I discuss time and aging? I don't, not directly. I think I was coming at a lot of things from a lot of different angles. I'd read that wonderful book, got it on my shelf by, is it Jane somebody, about growing old or something, and it's beautiful. So it probably comes in there because I do write at least over one of my birthdays, but I didn't really pick certain topics. I was just really going all over the place. I wanted to say as well, it's been an hour already. Linda says, what happens when you want to reverse out? I'm presuming that's the parking space. Hate reversing out of parking spaces. I mean, come on. Um, yeah, quantum physics at 18. Susie, it definitely works with genes that you don't fit into. Only you have to be going quite close to the speed of light. If that's not a problem, that's fine. Um, Obsessive and obedient arriving on time for therapy, says Rachel, another therapist in the audience. So basically, clients can never get it right. Right, I've got to the end of your chat messages. What was I going to say? I was going to say I wanted to thank my former agent, lovely Kate Johnson, as well, who was the only person for a very long time who'd read this time book. And she said that it was like spending time with me. And she seemed to think that was a very good thing. And that was definitely a very, very nice thing for me to hear. Unless anybody has any more questions, I was going to read you two final short pieces to do some final appetite whetting. That sounds wrong. Before we go, hang on a second. I'm actually finding the right page in advance in a kind of organized way. Hang on. Right, let's do this. And this is possibly the limit of my voice. So I want to read you the piece on the right hand side opposite the clocks, which is called, hang on, How to Deepen Your, oh no, it's gone, nearly there. How to Deepen Your Time, After Deep Time and the Sparrowhawk on BBC Sounds. When making your morning tea, coffee, while the kettle is boiling, send your mind back to where the coffee tea was grown. Watch it drying in the sun, wander along the packaging lines as your tea, coffee is being wrapped by so many hands, machines. Look at your toes and spend a few moments imagining the creatures whose toes yours evolved from. Go further back to webbed feet, perhaps, or to the tree branches your ancestors could swing from by their toes. Say to yourself, toes are amazing. When thinking about next having your hair cut, remember the previous time you had your hair cut and the time before that, and the best haircut you ever had, and the most traumatic, creating a timeline of haircuts of all qualities in all places throughout your life. Then book your appointment. Listen to your heart beating. Listen to your heart beating. Listen to your heart beating. I think I will stop there since we have been a while, and I will put you some links in the chat. And so just to say, as Luke has told me, and thank you again, Luke, and I will keep on thanking you, that the best way to support small independent publishers and the authors that they publish is to buy direct from them. And so I've given you that link. And the second best way, and especially if you'd like a signed copy, is you can get one from me. And hopefully I have international shipping set up. And if you'd like more of me, what I'm up to, and my musings on writing and life, and really for me it's kind of all the same, and permission, you can sign up for my newsletter on Substack. And you have the option of getting my Unbox Your Words monthly writing prompts, provocations, tasks, things. I think that's the end of my voice now. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for celebrating with me. I really can't think of a better way to celebrate a book and a birthday. Thank you for all your lovely, lovely comments. I don't know what to say in the face of lovely, lovely comments. So thank you. Whoever is down as iPhone who's telling me I'm wonderful, that's very kind. Current Sarah is thanking past Sarah for joining the school. And thank you for all the cake that's falling. Right. Now, those of us who are of that inclination can go and watch the Lionesses, hopefully beating Sweden at the Women's Euros. Thank you again. Lovely people. Bye.